Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. And this week, let's do a reading vlog. I have plans for this vlog though. I have 2 books that I am currently partway through, and I have one other book that I need to finish pretty soon because it needs to go back to the library. So this week, I am planning to read 3 books. I am planning to do a reread of Bunny by Mona Awad. I read this book last year. I absolutely adored it. I have already made a little bit of progress and I've decided I'm going to tab little bits as my heart sees fit. So I am doing a reread of Bunny. I am partway through Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, but I'm not a huge way through it. I am only maybe 50 pages in. I started reading this and then I got distracted and I had some obligations and I just never went back to this book, but I want to, so I'm going to. And the final book that I'm planning to read this week is Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. This is a library book, that's why it's so shiny, and it will be due back shortly, so I need to prioritise this too. So yeah, these are my goal reads for this week, and I will give you some updates when I have reached milestone moments and let you know a little bit more about what the books are, my thoughts and feelings, and well, if anything interesting happens to me during the week, I'll let you know about that too. It's highly unlikely. This is a very stressful week for me. The time when I'm filming this is end of the financial year and start of the new financial year. And for people who work in any sort of area in finance, it's chaotic, or it isn't chaotic, but it feels chaotic. There's a lot that has to be done and not a lot of time to do it during. So I am quite glad to have these books that they feel like books I'm gonna love. I know I love Bunny. I have historically loved everything Silvia Moreno-Garcia has written, and this comes to me highly recommended from people who know what I love to read. So I think I'm gonna set myself up for a really good week of reading, which feels like the perfect sort of balm to a stressful week of living. I have made this is the hair we have today. We're going with it. Yep. I have made some progress in Silver Nitrate. I am halfway through. This book, I did not say what any of the books are about. So this book is about 2 main characters. We have Montserrat and Tristan. Montserrat is a sound editor in a kind of industry that's not overly welcoming to her. Kind of feels like it's a little bit of boys club, and she feels like she's slowly being kind of pushed out of her job. She's not getting as many opportunities as she once was, and everything's kind of falling to her younger male colleagues. Tristan was once a beloved actor, and over the last sort of decade his star has fallen greatly. So we've got these 2 friends who've been friends since childhood, and they've always kind of leaned on each other, and they're both kind of not in the best place in life. Things are not going well for them, and they meet a retired horror director called Abel, and he lives in the same building as Tristan. And Abel used to direct these horror movies that both Montserrat and Tristan used to watch as kids. So they get to meet him and sort of form this relationship with Abel, who has some very odd things that he needs to share with them. And Abel claims that he once worked with some occultists who used a film made on silver nitrate as a spell, and that spell kind of went awry and resulted in him being cursed. But he wants to kind of reverse that curse, and in order to do so he needs 2 other people. Oh, who could they be? And we have Montserrat and Tristan kind of intrigued by this opportunity, but also kind of very doubtful of it. And at the point where I am in the book, things are getting really creepy. Really, really creepy. And I'm really enjoying it. It's so unusual, and what I kind of love about this author is I think I've read 9 books by Silvia Moreno-Garcia so far, and they're never the same. Like, so different from each other. And I just think her brain must be a fascinating place to live, with so many fantastic stories in there. I'm loving the characters so far. I'm loving how Tristan and Montserrat are so different, but just their relationship is just so loving and just really enjoyable to read about. Their friendship that has lasted like 30 years. It's so charming. I'm really looking forward to seeing what direction the book is going to go in, because so far a lot of the stuff that is mentioned in the blurb has already happened. So everything from now on is all mystery to me, but I'm having a really good time. It's very unusual, very interesting, and like nothing I've read before. So I'm looking forward to reading the last half of this. And I might do something with my hair for the next time I give an update. No promises. None. I have now finished Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and rating wise I am dithering between a 4 and a 4.5. So maybe I will give it 4.25. It has not yet dethroned my 2 favourite books by this author though, which are Gods of Jade and Shadow and The Beautiful Ones. They were, for me, utter perfection. But also so was These Strange Ways of Dying. I've got a lot of favourites by this author, but I did really enjoy this. After my last update, I was halfway through the book and things had started to drop hints of some escalation, and oh, did they escalate. And very quickly so. The book went back down that route of the creepy cult, which was what I was hoping was going to happen. There were more culty moments. There were definitely more supernatural moments too, which I really enjoyed. And I felt like I just taken on a wild adventure with this story and with these characters, and I didn't really know what direction the book was going to take, and I'm back. That was the door. I really had a good time with this. I highly recommend it. It was very creepy in a way that I don't recommend reading this if you are like me and you're scared of everything. I don't recommend reading it at bedtime. It's not a bedtime book because it goes in your head and makes you fear the shadows. And I don't need something to tell me to fear the shadows, because there's already things in my brain that are going, shadows, they're scary. So this is definitely a daytime book. I knew I was going to love this. Well, I didn't know, but I kind of hoped I was, because my friend has read this and we kind of have a very similar reading taste and she really enjoyed it. So I was going in going, one of my favourite authors, one of my friends who reads like I do, maybe 90% of the time, loves it. It was a given. It was predicted, written in the stars, that I was going to enjoy this book, and I really, really did. I have multiple updates. 2 updates. I am currently halfway through both Bunny and Our Hideous Progeny. So I'm going to start with the new to me book, which is Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. This is a Frankenstein inspired story about a woman in Victorian London, mainly London, but she does come to Scotland as well. She is the great niece of Victor Frankenstein, and she is not, such was the style at the time, she's not respected in the sort of the world of science, and she wants to be. She and her husband are geologists and they're really, really into fossils. And I am currently, like, I'm halfway through and I feel the book has just started, which is a strange thing to say when you're over 150-ish pages into a book that it's just getting started, but that's where we are. This book, I believe, has 4 parts and I am still in part 2. It's one of those books that has got, the 4th part is always really quite short. So part 1 is kind of laying the foundations of the environment that we are in. The protagonist, Mary, her husband's father has just passed away. There was no love lost between those two, but they go up to Inverness to sort of deal with the estate situation. And there she sort of learns a little bit more about her husband and some things that he has perhaps been, well, I say perhaps, he definitely has been hiding from her. And she's introduced to his sister that previously she hadn't had any relationship with because he always said quite horrible things about his sister Margaret / Maisie, and Mary and Maisie never had a chance to have this relationship, any sort of relationship at all. So it was really nice, quite sort of seeing them find a friend in each other because they were both so lonely. Husband Henry, is that his name? Yeah, husband Henry is a side main male character in a Victorian setting. He is pretty bland, pig-headed actually. He's very pig-headed. He's very, for a very intelligent man, he's very stupid. He lacks no common sense. He is starting arguments, like basically having a Victorian era Twitter war, which is very one-sided, with this man who's so high up in the science world that he wants to be part of. And so he's picking on him. And I'm not saying he's wrong to be arguing about this man, but I am saying the way he's going about it is just stupid. He is very pig-headed, very bullish, and very irresponsible. And it feels like he's very selfish with his affection towards Mary, who just feels like she has been almost neglected her whole life, like very sort of lacking any kind of like warmth from people, which is kind of due to the way that she came into this world. She was an illegitimate child and her mother passed away, her father passed away, so she was left with a grandmother who did not want her but felt obliged to raise her and just didn't raise her with any kindness or warmth. I really am enjoying Mary's relationship with her sister-in-law Maisie and with her, as strange as it sounds, her childhood neighbours. They formed this really wonderful friendship where one of her neighbours, he was a scientist and he kind of encouraged that from Mary. And it's really nice sort of seeing her not be afraid to be part of an industry that was not welcoming to women at all. I'm really liking that, but so far I feel like I've been tricked into reading a historical fiction book, because part 1 ends with us finding, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the blurb, part 1 ends with Mary finding notes from her great uncle Victor Frankenstein and sort of coming up with we're scientists, these are scientific notes, should we do some science? And that's what part 2 is kind of leading us into, which I'm enjoying. But honestly, I just wish that the book started at part 2, because I wanted to read this book because it was described as a sumptuously gothic horror tale in a Victorian setting. And so far, what I feel I've read is historical fiction. No horror, no sumptuousness, no, I'm not really even getting too much gothic vibe from this, not yet. And I'm not a fan of just straight historical fiction. if you throw in some if you throw in some magic, some horror, some thriller elements, some fantasy elements, then I'm there. But just plain historical fiction, never been my thing. So far, I'm not loving it, but I'm hopeful. I have a hopeful heart. I also have another friend who's currently on holiday, so very, very jealous of them. They are reading this poolside. I'm not reading this poolside. I don't have a pool. And my friend is on holiday in Greece, living their best life and reading this book. And they are sending me messages about how much they are loving this. So I don't know how far ahead they are then to me, but getting these messages from my friends saying how much they're loving this book is making me want to continue with this in the hope that I will also love it. Otherwise, we're going to have a really, really awkward really awkward book chat next week when we meet for our monthly blather about books. And if we've both read this and one of us has loved it and one has hated it, then that will be very interesting, because I already have that relationship with another of my friends. Am I just the one that hates things? I hope not. So yes, I am halfway through. Not loving it, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that's all going to change, because I want to love this. I want it to get started. I want the creepiness. Don't have creepiness yet. I would like the creepiness. In contrast to a book that I'm not quite loving, I have a book I'm loving. It is my reread of Bunny by Mona Awad. I've been tabbing. Do these tabs really mean anything? Nope. All the tabs mean is that I liked something. I liked something. I thought it was witty. I thought it was creepy. I thought it was atmospheric. Something like that. Or I thought it was cute. Because, I don't know, I see a lot of the bunnies in some of my wardrobe sometimes. I put my pearls on in homage to the bunnies, but I'm wearing a lipstick today instead of a balm. So I'm not looking at the bunnies for style inspiration. Maybe a little. This book was one of my favourite books of last year. It is about Samantha Heather Mackey, who is sort of a outsider loner type at her university. She is doing a writing course, which sounds very, I want to say sort of experimental. I never did a writing course at a made-up university, so I don't know whether it is or isn't, but the way that they do their writing pieces is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And there is a group of women in her writing class, and she does not like these women at all. They are sugary, sweet, saccharine, call each other bunny, hug a lot, very sort of like childlike in a creepy, we are one unit kind of way. And this year it is she and these 4 bunnies in their class. And they have invited her to join them. They've invited her around in a sort of extending the hand of friendship. And from there, things get a little bit strange. So Heather, keep wanting to call her Heather. The reason I want to call her Heather is because the thing I loved about this book the first time I read it was the amount of nods towards Heathers, which is one of my favourite films of all time. I love Winona Ryder and I love Heathers, and I cannot be convinced otherwise that is not one of the best films that has ever been, because I love it. So I keep wanting to call her Heather, but her name is Samantha, or Smacky as her friend Ava calls her. Things get really weird when Samantha joins the bunnies. We then sort of go into almost haze trip of an adventure. Heather finds herself dressing kind of similar to bunnies, playing their reindeer games, if you like, and kind of we lose Samantha and gain a new bunny. One of my favourite things in fiction is a book about toxic friendship. Dysfunctional female relationships are one of my favourite things to read, and this has it. And in addition to that, there are some horror elements. This whole book, this was the first Mona Awad book I ever read, and I've now read 3, and they all have the same thing that I love about them, which is like they are disorienting in an almost like, I almost feel nauseated reading the books because I feel unmoored. I feel a little like, it just feels very disorienting in the best kind of way. But all I can think of is how much I really want to get some fresh flowers for the house, because bunnies making me want some nice things for our house. And cake. Kind of want some tiny cakes. Tiny cakes, fresh flowers. What more does a girl need? I will report back when I have full reviews for, well, this is a reread, but our Hideous Progeny. I'm going to finish it and hope I love it. I have now finished with both Bunny and our Hideous Progeny, so let's chat about those. First up, I'm going to start with our Hideous Progeny, which I can't hold because it was due back at the library, where it was returned unfinished because I DNF'd this book. I DNF'd the book at page 173. I just didn't care enough to continue with it. And I thought that pushing myself to read the second half of the book, I knew the book was unlikely, unless that last half ended up being amazing, the book was unlikely to be any higher than a 3-star. And I ultimately didn't think that it was the best use of my time to continue with a book that I kind of, when I started reading it, thought, I don't know if this is for me, but I kept going because I was waiting for the promised like gothic horror creepy monster to appear. I was waiting to fall in love with the writing because I'd had a few people tell me how much they'd enjoyed the book. Like 2 of my friends have given this 4 stars. I think one's given it 5. It's a Scottish author, so always I'm extra reluctant to DNF when it's a Scottish author because I want to support them. But I also think that it's unfair on both me and the book to continue reading something out of a sense of loyalty because I know I'm not liking it and there's other people who do, and I feel I made the right choice for me. I have, of course, gone and checked some of the spoilery reviews to see, you know, did things happen that would make me feel like, you know, I'm gonna give it a second go knowing that XYZ happens. And for me, after I got the spoilers from the last half, I would have hated the last half. Things happened that I don't enjoy in books at all. So I've made the right choice. I'm just so sad because this is the second time this year that I can remember picking up a book that promised to be a historical setting with, you know, gothic horror or magical whimsy, and it's just given me historical fiction, which is my least favorite genre. So I feel I've been lied to by blurbs, and that's not, I know the author doesn't get to pick the blurb. I don't know, I've never published a book, but I think the author isn't in charge of blurbs. It's not their fault. On a brighter note, because no way was I ending this vlog with a DNF, I finished Bunny. I finished it, and look at the tabs. I used 3 thingies of tabs. I don't know what the collective word for a stack of tabs is. So thingies will do. I just tabbed the parts that I liked. Fun quotes, you know, WTF moments, and just weird bits. But also, because this was a reread, I knew the things that were coming. So I could see that sort of foreshadowing. And it was so fun for me to sort of notice all of these hints that I had missed the first time around because, well, I didn't know to look for them. I utterly adored this, and I feel like I loved this book so much more the second time around. It was, of course, another 5-star because I gave it 5 stars the first time, and I given it the same, plus like a, I don't know, a smiley face or something, because I loved it so much. This book just makes me, it just makes me so happy in my soul. I just really love it. And it kind of made me yearn for doing more rereads, because if I loved a book before, chances are kind of high that I might love it again. This can vary, of course, from book to book, but I am in my creepy, strange book phase of life, which surely comes to us all, and I just loved it so much more than before. And Mona Awad remains firmly seated at the dinner party for favourite authors. I've decided it's a dinner party now. Previously it was a picnic in my head that they all went and hung out at, but it's currently raining right now and I feel it would be unfair to expect them to be in a picnic. So my favourite authors in my mind have a lovely dinner party with like goblets and stuff. It's quite nice. Maybe it's in a castle. I don't know. It's not real. So of my 3 books, I finished 2, and I feel like this was amazing. This was still amazing. Even though I had a DNF, it was a wild card going in from the beginning when I kind of got that vibe that it wasn't quite what I was expecting. So I'm still considering this vlog to be a success because 9 stars, 9 stars out of 15, not too shabby. I'm taking it as a win. I'd love to know what you've been reading lately and if you are a fan of rereading, because I did a poll on Instagram and I got some very controversial answers with many people that I know have some wild feelings when it comes to rereading books. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!